Water is a sacred, altruistic intelligence, and the blue star beings of light describe the element of water as the great universal communicator. Hi, my name is Nancy Rebecca, and my business is Intuitive Mind. I've been working for 25 years as a clairvoyant who can see the energy fields, the movement in the spiritual world, and how it impacts our earthly world. I also love to talk about just how dynamic we are as human beings. When I realized that water has a higher intelligence than I do, it was quite challenging for me to even drink a glass of water. I had enormous reverence, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I need to drink you for my life. And realizing, as water said to me, you are equally altruistic at your base level. You are equally sacred in your intelligence, and you are equally great at communicating universal information, just like you and all humans are. It's just that your mind gets in the way. So in this talk today, this is part of my Blue Light series talk. I do have a Facebook page that is specifically devoted to talking about the star beings and the messages that they are bringing through. And one of these messages today is about water. So if you go to the Facebook site and you put in the search of Blue Light Movement, and you just then answer kind of a few questions, go through the rules, then you'll be accepted onto that page. And then once a month, I give a talk about the messages that the star beings, the blue light star beings, are bringing through. So they really wanted me to talk about just how incredible water is. They wanted me to share with you all that water is a living, breathing soul, spirit of the highest intelligence. And as they started to kind of describe to me about water, they wanted to first start by talking about you as a human being, that you are like 80% water, that not your heart, your muscles are like 75% water, your lungs are 83% water, your liver and your kidneys are like 72% water. And the part that kind of blew me away the most, especially as a nurse, that even our bones are made of 31% water. And if you really think about water as being this high sacred intelligence that is held inside of us, and that altruistic state, meaning giving selflessly of itself to help uplift others, to help others to survive. And basically that's what water does. Water is life. Water gives life. Water is life sustaining. But it is even greater than that. But when we drink a glass of water, we must stay hydrated. We need water to conduct energy. I work as a clairvoyant. I teach about the dynamic health of your human energy field. So not only does our nervous system need water, need that hydrated state to help conduct electricity or help move along the nervous system those messages from our brain and our spinal column to the furthest reaches of our extremities, such as our fingers and our toes. But working as a full-time psychic, one of the secrets that I try to pass on to everyone is one of my secret recipes is when I go to do a psychic reading, a clairvoyant reading for someone, and especially if I'm channeling a lot of healing energy, I must be very hydrated. And sometimes in one day I can drink between 1 and 2 gallons of water if I'm working with a lot of people, because the intuitive information that comes through needs the hydrated system to be able to move those messages along from your spirit to my spirit so that I can share with you what your spirit is trying to tell me. But even in our main energy field, our aura, when we were born, we were in the placenta, we were in the womb, and when we were born, we were held in water for 9 months. And of course, we've heard about underwater births where then the baby is born into the water and only takes its first breath of air once it rises to the surface. So we need our energy field to stay quite hydrated so that when intuitive information comes in, whether it's through feeling, sound, sight, or knowingness, that those intuitive impulses from our environment can pass through our aura, can communicate what's happening around us at the unseen level of our world to our chakras, and then our chakras can take that impulse, turn it around, and send messages back out to the world. Just like telepathy, that mind-to-mind communication, which, by the way, we are getting much better at and continue to get better at as we move forward in this great time of awakening. So we need water to be able to stay hydrated. But then as I was talking to the blue beings of light, they wanted to go further to say and explain that just like water in the air, in the soil, when it gets heated up, steam rises. We've seen that with fog, with mist, or on a really hot day, we'll kind of see the mist start to rise from the earth. It rises up, creates clouds. You have your storm clouds, maybe a little electricity, and then suddenly there's a downpour of rain to the earth again. So we know just in our basic education, the water goes up, it forms, it moves, it's carried by the air, and then it showers back down to the earth. But then the blue beings of light then wanted to talk about, just like in snow in the mountains, we have snow that snows on the ground, we have ice that's created. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of glaciers, that really thick, old, ancient ice that is millions and millions of years old. That is ice, that is the foundation, which is water. I just had a huge truck go rumbling by. But as that melts, it fills our rivers, streams, lakes, and even then as the rivers flow into the ocean. So there's this constant kind of rise of water being transported, communicated to a different dimension, and then showered down. That communication comes back down to us. But then the blue beings of light wanted to take it another step, and they said, Nancy, when you breathe out, there is a mist. Now we know we've been talking about this, especially with COVID-19 and the global pandemic that we went under, that this virus is passed through water droplets, through saliva, through talking and singing and yelling and dancing and expressing. Because what happens is it's carried in that mist, it's carried, our communication is carried by water, and it can be breathed in by someone else. But then the blue star beings then said, when you breathe out, then it gets picked up, it gets carried up to those higher dimensions, up into the atmosphere, then wind can blow it halfway around the world, it comes down to the surface of the earth again, and literally the air that you are breathing, that exchange can be picked up very quickly by somebody else around the world. So this sacred, altruistic intelligence of being the great universal communicator, the blue beings of light really wanted me to understand just how incredible water is. Now, altruistic means giving and giving and giving for the sake, selflessly, of uplifting others, helping to provide life, helping to hydrate us, but also giving selflessly so we can flush our toilets, wash our dishes, wash our cars, water our golf courses. So it just gives and gives, and without resentment. It's like, what do you need? I will provide this for you. But this is the next piece that they talked about. They said in every single molecule of water is trillions of bits of information. They gave the example of like a crystal in a computer, that a quartz crystal can hold a tremendous amount of data in one little tiny square of quartz crystal. They explain water is the same way. It's a conductor. It knows how to carry data, and it conducts that energy as it moves through and moves that intelligence across the world and out into the universe. So then they shared with me all the water that's in the sky, up in the stars and the planets, in the galaxies, in the universe. I mean, we have our solar system, but they were describing going beyond our solar system. So in the galaxy of Orion's, what was the word? Sorry, I have to look it up because it was just that important, and I want to get it right. And I will include the link here in this video so you can look it up yourself. Orion's Nebula. I wanted to get that word right. Where Orion's belt is, and the Sirius A, B, and C, those planets. So it's that whole nebula. I got this from the NASA government site, that the Orion's Nebula produces enough water every single day to fill all the oceans, lakes, ponds, rivers, streams, creeks, underground water systems 60 times over in one day. That much water in the Orion's Nebula is produced every single day, 60 times over of the amount of water we have on the Earth. That's a lot of water in outer space. I don't know about you, but I thought outer space was dry. And we hear about, when they're searching on planets, sending probes, see if they can find water on other planets. And they most certainly have found ice on those planets that are extra cold. So what they were describing, these blue light beings, is that, and what it said on the government site was the water is the basis to create and grow new planets and stars. I mean, I'm thinking about the flowers that are growing in my yard, water growing that, causing the seed to kind of open up, water helping to grow trees, animals drinking water. So thinking about the water being the foundation, the basis to grow stars and planets, that's just mind-blowing. So the blue beings of light talked about intelligence is communicated and carried beyond our atmosphere, beyond our solar system, to the furthest reaches of the universe to communicate what's going on for us. And then we're picking up that communication, and it's almost like the universe exhales, we inhale, and all that information is carried back to us. So why is it that these blue beings of light felt that it was so valuable and so important to express this at this point in our kind of great awakening? Well, what they said was that we as humans have not had the capacity in these last several thousand years to really understand, have reverence for, appreciate, and have gratitude towards water. They said just like a human who gives selflessly from a loving heart, whether it's in charitable organizations or to help uplift your neighbor, that you give and you give and you give and you give in that very altruistic way, and you never expect anything back. But as humans, we can grow to be resentful. Water never gets resentful. Water is always there wanting to give, wanting to uplift, wanting to shift in a way that helps us to heal. So in this, I have this story where I was working with my teacher in South Africa, my Sangoma teacher. And one day he came by in the morning and he said, "Get your swimsuit on, we're going to go for a hike." So we went for a hike, and I could see that it was kind of dry on the land, but just off in the distance, I could see some trees kind of in a circle. So we were heading towards that grove of trees. We kind of hiked down the rocks, and when we came to the door of the trees, he taught me how to ask for permission to come into that sacred forest. I felt the energy open up and almost like a hug welcoming me in. Once I went inside, I could see there was a large, crystal clear pool of water. And then he wanted me to sit at the water's edge and begin to talk to the water. and asked the water if I could put my feet into the water. Could I put my whole body? Did I have permission? Would it be okay? Because water is a living, it's a living element. It's a living spirit. And just to jump in water without asking permission was not being very respectful of, how would you feel if somebody just kind of walked into your house, jumped on the couch, or started rummaging through your refrigerator to get something to eat? So there's just this normal kind of respect exchange. But what happened then, he said, ask the water to give you a healing. So I went into a quiet, prayerful position where I just had my head down. I'm talking to the water. Now, I have to tell you, I had never done anything like this before, but I was trusting that my teacher had a good lesson for me. And I would tell you that I talked to the water about the burdens that I had in life. Maybe the burdens might be doubting myself, having insecurities, maybe being a little critical or judgmental. But after I went into my prayer, then I waded into the water, and this time I waded in knowing that it was relational. I wanted to feel the energy of the water kind of reaching around and embracing me and coaxing me to come in deeper. I went all the way into the deepest center of the pool. I went underwater, and then when I came back up again, I felt this enormous shift as the sacred water was infusing me with healing energy and taking away my burdens. So I share this story with you because it can literally be that simple, that you just, even taking a bath, stepping into the shower, having gratitude for the water, asking the water to heal you, to wash over you, asking the water in the bath to take away your burdens and rinse them down the drain. So the blue beings of light, there is so much that they want to communicate about water. And they said humans on this earth are built to be able to bring in this high level of data that is contained in the water within our own body, is contained in the rain that soaks our earth, is contained in our rivers and our oceans. And they said that we are now, as we are expanding in this higher state of consciousness, we have the ability to begin communicating with the water and all the ways that the water wants to help guide us as we move into the future. So how do you know that you're a water communicator? How do you know that you're a messenger for the water? Well, the indigenous cultures have never forgotten that the water is sacred. They've never forgotten that it is an intelligence, that it is a spiritual being. The indigenous cultures, the first peoples of our earth, remember that they are from the cosmos, that their ancestors are star beings. So for the rest of us who have forgotten this ancient wisdom and knowledge, we are beginning to awaken to this again. So if you are one of those people that when it's raining, that you can feel that level of gratitude that everything in nature is getting watered. When you get into a shower or bath, do you look at the water and ask it to cleanse you? When you drink a glass of water, do you hold it for a moment and thank the water for its life-giving properties and its sacredness before you drink it? When you're washing your dishes, are you very careful about how much water you use to wash or to rinse? Are you one of those people that think about the gray water? So after you've rinsed your dishes, do you maybe take it out into the yard to water your garden? Or how about flushing your toilet? Do you feel that you only want to flush your toilet when it's absolutely necessary? Even some people put bricks in the tank in the back to help displace some of the water so that you don't use so much. Or we have people who purchase toilets that are water-saving toilets or having water-saving showers. When you stand at the edge of the ocean, can you feel the vastness of its soul? Can you feel it calling to you? And think about all the creatures in the ocean, like the whales and the dolphins especially, have this enormous, incredible intelligence as well. I even had an experience when I was in Hawaii of swimming in the water and saw these clear, watery, spiritual beings. I continued to swim, but they gathered not just 10 around me, but not just 100 around me, but then suddenly there were thousands surrounding me. Even though I could feel their incredible, loving presence, I was still overwhelmed and frightened because I'm a clairvoyant. I could see them. And just like dolphins, but they were about 15 feet in length. But I could literally see through them as they were watery shapes because they were swimming through the water and they were from a very high level of dimension. When I got back to shore and over the next few weeks when I was in Hawaii, I was going around asking people what I was sharing this experience I had and ask if any of them had had this same experience in Kealakekua Bay on the Big Island. And they all said no, they hadn't heard of what I was talking about, but they were able to point me to a woman by the name of Antiocha, who was a sacred teacher who has since passed. But I was able to find where she kind of hung out, and I introduced myself and asked her if I could share the story. And I remember she was like, oh, she just smiled big and she nodded. She could really hear what I was saying and knew that it was truth. Now, I don't remember the Hawaiian name for it, but I do remember when she said, for you in your English language and the country that you come from, you know them as mermaids. Well, my heart just blew open when I realized that mermaids are real and I happen to be swimming with them and they are incredible. So I just share these stories with you so that in the hopes that you will begin to look at water from a different perspective and maybe even start practicing with communicating with water to bring that higher level of dimensional information to our earth during this time when we absolutely need it the most. I'm going to include the government link, that NASA link, so that you can read about that. But I'm also going to include a link by a woman by the name of Veda Austin. And she took Masaru Emoto's work and she took it to a whole nother level. She's got a 30-minute video in this link, and I highly recommend that you take a look at it. Again, once I saw that combined with the information from the Blue Beings of Light, I thought, never again will I look at water the same. So I invite you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I release a YouTube video every single week. And I write a blog post through my website, intuitivemind.org, every single week. So if you get on put your email in my email list, you will get to receive the blog posts as well as any kind of new classes, workshops that I am offering. And again, hop on the Facebook page, Blue Light Movement, and read in my blog post about my journey with the Blue Beings of Light known as Star Beings. It's an incredible story, and it's definitely not over yet. And they've got messages that are coming up every single year up through the year 2025. And they're helping those of us who have eyes to see and ears to hear and the consciousness to be able to connect with the information. They are open to guiding us as we move forward over these next several years. So thank you again, everyone, for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week.